Hello, everyone. This is Sergio Marrero, and we're here at another session of RBL1 Live. We have a great guest today who I've known for a while, Ebony Brown, who's partner at Rethink Education. Thanks for joining us tonight, Ebony.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, excited. For those that don't know about Ebony, so she's a graduate of Howard University, also got her MBA at University of Michigan. She's been in the investing world for quite some time, working at Village Capital, and we actually crossed paths when I was a ed tech founder pitching my venture to her. So it's been a long time. So thank you for coming on tonight, and I'm glad we're able to get you.
Yes, and if you let me brag on it. So let me tell you guys about Sergio's first venture that he started while he was at Harvard. I thought it was such a cool idea. They were basically trying to be like ClassPass for university classes. So the extra seats allowing like universities kind of sell those to other people. And ironically, we actually have a company in our portfolio. They invested in it before I started called Acadium. That's doing something similar. So you're definitely on to something.
Yep, there's a lot of opportunity there. Higher ed. We'll talk a little bit about higher ed and the innovation there, especially now during this time where everybody has a push to be virtual and they're pushing back to be in person. But yeah, I would love for you to share a little bit more with the audience on what is Rethink Education, a little bit more about your venture fund.
Yeah, so Rethink was started in 2012. We invest in education technology, invest across the education life cycle, so early childhood, K-12, higher ed, and workforce. And we're early stage investors, so we invest pre-seed through Series A, and then with initial checks of 1 to 3 million, and have a portfolio of over 80 companies. 20% Black and Latinx founders, 30% female founders.
Amazing. And in looking at the companies you invest in, can you share with the audience a little bit on what you look for? Is there a particular stage of company and size check?
Yeah, so we're looking, most companies are around seed stage for our initial checks. We invest like 1 to 3 million initially into companies. And I mean, we have different kind of investment theses for the different areas, be it early childhood or K-12. I will say that the majority of investments that we do are B2B. We like to put the financial burden on schools or on employers and less on students, because we don't want to invest in things that are helping to widen the educational gap.
Excellent. And can you also shared a little bit more on what makes Rethink unique? You mentioned it's a part of several different funds that hang together. So can you share more about how that works?
So Rethink Capital Partners is like a family of funds. All the funds are completely separately run, but we share a back office. So there's Rethink Education. There's Rethink Impact, which is a gender lens fund that invests specifically in female-led founders. Rethink Communities, which is an Opportunity Zone fund. And then CVS Capital Partners, which is a real estate fund that does like real estate investments.
Excellent.
Oh, and Rethink Food. Sorry, food as well.
Absolutely. And what's the advantage to having it set up in that way?
Yeah, I mean, we're trying to work on the platform stuff, honestly, but I would say just collaboration amongst different investment partners with different funds. And I mean, for us, with the back office, like it takes the burden off of like worrying about HR or investor relations and things of that sort. So it's nice that all of the funds have kind of a collective mission around impact, which makes it pretty powerful.
Excellent. And how, and a little bit more about, I wanted to share with the audience more about your background Ebony, and how did you end up in venture? Did you always know you wanted to be in venture? I know you were part of the social venture club when you were in your MBA, but was that the plan from the beginning, or how, can you walk us through some of your journey?
Sure. So I started my career at Google. And then, well, I guess before that, introduction to education. In undergrad, I was in the first intern class for Teach for America at their headquarters. Planned on going to the core, and then got a job at Google. So I wasn't going to turn down. So I did that for a while, but I kept in touch with Teach for America. They let me know that there was a woman trying to start up a charter school network in my hometown in Detroit, and she was looking for someone to start it with her. So I moved back to Detroit and helped to open and run charter schools for a few years before going to business school. I didn't know about venture, honestly, at all before business school. And they had us take one of those career tests before business school. And I got like 94% for entrepreneurship and like 92% for venture capital. And I called my brother, he was at Columbia Business School at the time. And I was like, hey, what is venture capital? Like, I took this test, it says I should do this. And he was like, oh, nobody gets jobs in that. Like, don't worry about it. And I was like, okay, I guess I'll go back to looking at marketing, I guess. And I learned about the social venture fund. I actually went to business school with a focus on going into corporate philanthropy. And I liked that impact investing was a more sustainable way to accomplish similar goals. So yeah, after the social venture fund, I was kind of hooked on venture in this space.
Awesome. And I know you ended up at Village Capital, which has a different model as well. Can you share a little bit more about Village Capital and how it works and the role you played there?
Sure. So Village Capital was extremely innovative and kind of a pioneer in the impact space. And they were really trying to help to democratize entrepreneurship by putting the investment decision in the hands of entrepreneurs. So it's a combination of an accelerator and a seed fund. And we would bring together cohorts of entrepreneurs and like 10 to 15 around an investment thesis. So say for education, focusing on something specific in education. And the hypothesis was, okay, well, if you teach these entrepreneurs how to think like investors and you bring them together for a few accelerator programs, then you allow them to make the decision of who ultimately gets investing in the top two companies. So at Village Capital, I started helping to run the education practice at Village Capital, and then moved up to help to oversee all of our verticals and investment strategy across the U.S.
And that I'm curious, as that model, like I haven't heard many other venture funds take on that model, right? Of that collective decision. Can you share a little bit why do you think it hasn't taken off, or like any thoughts on actually making investment decisions in that way?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think it's a good model for early stage investing. What I liked about it is like the founders are a lot more have intimately experienced the problem and are working in this sector, so they can call bullshit a little easier on other founders versus an investor that kind of just is diving in for a week or two and doing a few background calls and don't kind of intimately know what's going on in the space. As to why it hasn't taken off, I don't know. It was kind of a wacky out there idea, but it was, really interesting. And, its Village Capital is still around and doing well. So
awesome. Yeah, I always think about the like different models, especially in the impact space, and how to, like you said, how to make it more equitable as you break in. And what in shifting to Rethink and staying in the like this like for-profit education world, what are some of the areas in the ed tech space that you're most excited about today?
Yeah, I would say that I'm really excited about just in general the transitions from learning to like job placement, and what happens there. So I'm thinking even as early as like high school to career, like things that are going around college, or like the unbundling of credentials and like what that looks like. Because I believe in the future, 10, 20 years from now, like college won't necessarily be the only pathway, right? The only kind of gatekeeper to jobs. So I think also that over time, companies are going to get a lot better at skills assessment. So like things that are in upskilling and reskilling and helping people to better identify jobs that might not have even been on their radar, but they might be qualified for and can help them earn a lot more money, and then suggesting courses that maybe they should take to get there. So I think just a lot more learning in the flow of work instead of you go to work and then you have to take a complete interruption to go back to school. Like, what does it look like for data to be collected on you and understand your skills? And it's constantly kind of nudging you to learn new things. I think it's interesting.
And what do you think it's really going to take to make that happen? Like, I definitely believe you. I'm with you. And I think that was part of our thesis, is that you may not need a whole degree. You can, our phrase was like, consume education as you can afford it and as it fits with your career, right? That was like one of our taglines. So but a lot of companies just blanket say, hey, you need a degree, you need X degree, even if it has nothing to do with the work that's being done there. Like, what are some of the things that I guess have to come from the company side?
And I think it's going to be a gradual process, and I don't think college just goes away. But I think we're already starting to see companies that want skilled labor forces and are creating their own courses and content to kind of upskill people on doing the actual job, to bypass degrees for certain entry level roles. We're also seeing an increase in like public-private partnerships, and people that are starting to create shorter form micro courses on top of the college curriculum, because colleges are not, they're not innovating on their curriculum fast enough to keep up with the pace of jobs. And so we're seeing a lot of people that are starting to like white label courses for colleges. We saw that with Trilogy. There are a lot of others that are entering the space now at the college and university level that are partnering with them to try to help them to keep up. So
that's excellent. That's where you see when companies say, hey, this is how you have to be trained. If you train, then we'll hire you. I'm glad that's happening. If you're looking at what are some of the challenges you believe now with that are taking place with virtual learning, and what I'm thinking about, because you look across the spectrum, like higher ed, and you talk about early childhood as well. Find it really challenging to do virtual learning for early childhood, and keep students engaged and things like that. Like what new spaces are there, you think, to innovate in that arena?
Yeah, I mean, I think what has been hardest in like K-12 is just still students that aren't able to access, have the stability at home to access continually a online learning environment. There's also been just like, I think the biggest pressing issue in education right now is like the shortage of teachers. And so we've always been really big believers in like human-centered learning. And I think you see that with like the rise of cohort-based learning, and things that where people are just learning together and not just like self-paced MOOCs. That would be very hard to do with, very young students. So I think that, there always will be like a human element, but I think that there will need to be more creative ways, and hopefully that hybrid learning still kind of continues once things open up to allow students with different disabilities or different needs to be able to still work in that environment. But I think, yeah, K-12, the biggest things we're seeing are like tutoring, supplemental learning for math and reading, like core curriculum, formative assessments, because in general, even within a grade, students are at drastically different levels because of the interruptions in learning. And so teachers need to quickly be able to assess where they're at, to give them the right tools. So those are some of the issues.
I mean, one of the recent, I'll call out a recent article in the Wall Street Journal that talked about the National Guard coming in to teach a class, or to be a substitute teacher in New Mexico, right? Like, well, you think about the dynamics right now, there's, it's a very competitive job market. Teachers are probably being offered more elsewhere. And don't really see that changing. The pay for teachers isn't increasing anytime soon. It's a tough job. Do you think this is, it doesn't seem like there's an end in sight. It just seems like this is a really big problem that we're not really talking about.
This is a really big problem.
Yeah.
And some of this is like beyond venture. It's like help. Yep. But I mean, there has been, billions of dollars of like ESSER funding and CARES Act funding that have been going to schools. A lot of it's been used for like PPE and devices and things of that sort. So I think school leaders are still trying to figure out priorities. There's definitely a high priority for social emotional learning and mental health as you think about higher ed and workforce. So it's TBD, but it's something that we need to figure out. It is beyond venture.
It was a recent conversation I wasn't aware of, and I was like, wow, this is big. So I think there's a lot of factors at play no clear solution in sight. But shifting gears, for you, and you've been working in in this space, supporting innovation in education and also underrepresented founders. What more do you think needs to take place in order to level the playing field, not only for women, founders of color, any thoughts there?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's definitely been some, slow progress over the years. So that's great. And a lot of increased attention on diversity in DC over the past few years. So I think programs that are like what you're creating to help expose people to pulling back the curtain of like what venture is and more about the careers, open pathways for more diverse people to enter this field is great. Of course, leveling up and allowing people to have check writing experience. I think the Rise and Scout programs for founders and people that, might not necessarily be angel investors themselves, but want to start building their track record. I think all those things are helpful, like all the different pipeline programs that are sprouting up. I think the knowledge of venture, like I told you, in 2013, I had never heard of venture capital, but I think it is a lot more popular. I think there are a lot more diverse fund managers that are, getting a swing at bat and starting their initial fund. So hopefully it's just a trickle down effect and it'll keep multiplying.
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah, well, no, I appreciate you coming on and sharing a little bit more on insight on your journey. What's next for Ebony and Rethink Education?
Yeah, so I guess we're deploying capital out of our third fund right now. And so later this year, we'll probably start raising for Fund 4. I am actively investing out of my little sidecar fund for Black and Latinx founders. So I'm excited for the returns for that to break records and open the door for tons of other people. Yeah, our team is growing. I can't talk about it all the way yet, but we have some exciting team updates that should be coming out in the next month or so. So yeah, I guess same as usual, but
Well, no, thank you very much, Ebony, for sharing your story, coming on. For everyone that's watching, if you're interested in Rethink Education, click on the link in the live stream notes. And for everyone that just tuned in late, this is Ebony Brown, partner at Rethink Education. So thanks for joining us tonight.